But right now, I just want to test out whether or not there is any shift whenever I put my suppressor on versus when my suppressor is off with this specific barrel. This is a Faxon, or Faxon, however you pronounce it, pencil profile barrel, as you can see on here. Very thin barrel, and I was concerned whether or not I would have more zero shift, you know, putting a suppressor on the end of it, because the suppressor I have is a Surefire. Show you here. So it's a Surefire. This is a SOCOM Mini. So it's lighter weight than, you know, the full size one by I think a little bit, but it's still quite chunky. So putting, you know, weight on the end of a barrel, especially a thin barrel, it's going to droop ever so slightly. So the question is how much. Now the point of impact shift shouldn't be a whole lot because these are known for not changing the point of impact shift, but I'm curious in conjunction, you know, with that thin barrel, what'll happen.
All right, welcome back, guys. Today we are going to be doing a little bit of redneck science and kind of testing what a suppressor does to impact shift. Now, this is not anything new. Almost every suppressor out there, as far as I know of, will have some sort of impact shift on your gun. Surefire, which is, you know, who makes this one, is known for having less impact shift than a lot of others, at least when it comes to taking your gun or your suppressor on and off your gun, you know, multiple times. It's supposed to be very similar and, you know, repeatable. And it's also not supposed to have a significant amount of impact shift, just, you know, putting the suppressor on versus taking it off. So I wanted to test that, but not just with, you know, a standard barrel. I wanted to test it with my specific setup because, again, if you're familiar with this gun, it's designed to be as lightweight as I can get it because I knew it was going to be heavy with all of this crap on there. Obviously, you know, I have it, you can't see it, but I have a Eotech EXPS3-0 and a primary arm 6X magnifier behind here. I plan on actually replacing this with an EXPS3-4 because I want to try the little 4-dot, you know, BDC reticle with or in conjunction with the magnifier to see how I like it. I really like this red dot, but I just want to see if I can, you know, cheat and get something that has a little bit of bullet drop compensation for shooting at longer ranges. Assuming the 4-dot, you know, basically kind of turns into a line and it doesn't annoy my OCD, but I'm going to buy one just to kind of see. And I've heard also rumors, just kind of side note, that Eotech is actually working on well, not rumors, but they commented on a couple of videos that I responded to, and the EXPS 3-4, the 4 reticle one that they're making, I think they're trying to make a way where you can turn off the extra dots and just leave the center dot on, and then whenever you want the extra, you know, BDC dots, you can just, I don't know, push a button, slide a lever, do something, and have it to where you can use those, you know, one or the other, which to me would be ideal. So I'm hoping that they come out with that sooner rather than later, so I don't have to buy the XPS 3-4 and then have to go and buy another one that has the, you know, the ability to turn it on and off. But anyway, so that's what's on here. So again, this idea was to make it as lightweight as possible because I knew I was going to have a light on here, a laser, I was going to have a magnifier, you know, an Eotech, which they're chunky, and a suppressor. So obviously I went with a lighter weight barrel. This is a Faxon pencil profile barrel. It's a 16-inch. The handguard is made by Stinger, and if I remember right, I think it's like a 13.5-inch handguard. I could be wrong. In retrospect, I should have gone with a little bit longer of a handguard just to get the flashlight that much further out there. I actually bought a T-Rex Arms mount where you can mount it onto, well, it replaces this little Picatinny, or not Picatinny, but M-LOK section right here, and then you can use it to direct mount the M640 Surefire flashlights to it, and it would push it out, you know, probably about this much further, which would help. I haven't put it on there yet because I haven't decided, you know, well, I just don't want to move everything around yet. But anyway, so I'm going to be doing a bunch of tinkering. I also bought an A5 buffer system stock, or buffer tube stock system, whatever you want to call it, that I'm going to be putting on it as well because the suppressor does add some back pressure, as you know. So again, the point of this video was just to test really just impact shift with 2 different barrel types. So this is just a test of 2. Again, it's not scientific. I wanted to see whether or not a pencil barrel, there's an ant, I wanted to see if a pistol barrel had significantly more impact shift, you know, or droop than a standard barrel. So if you don't know what this one is, this one's made by K Tactical. It's actually on the receiver right there. So this one comes with the Surefire muzzle brake, and then what I have on here. So in case you're wondering, this is a Surefire. This is the SOCOM Mini2, the 5.56 variant. So it's the shorter can that Surefire offers for the 5.56. I thought about getting the RC2. That one of my friends has that, but he also has a 13.9 pinned and welded AR, if I remember correctly. Could be a 14.5. I thought it was 13.9 anyways. So he has a longer one because it, obviously does better with sound suppression on a shorter barrel. This one, since I had a 16-inch barrel, was going to be my main gun, and I really like 16-inch barrels, honestly. When it comes to ballistics on an AR, I'm okay with the 14.5-inch, but that's about as short as I'll go in my mind because I like being able to shoot 55 grains, and I like the 55 grains having some sort of decent ballistics, out to 400 or 500 yards. The shorter the barrel, the worse the ballistics. Now, if you're using, specialty ammo or 77 grain or, stuff like that, it's not as big of a deal, but for me, I like shooting 55 grain because I'm cheap, and I feel like that's probably the most realistic thing you can stock up on. If you can stock up with more expensive stuff, then great. But anyway, so the muzzle device on this one obviously is a muzzle brake, and then this one is the 3-prong flash hider that they make. And both of these are designed to mount to their RC2, their Surefire line. So obviously they're proprietary, so it's kind of obnoxious having to spend almost $200 on each of these, but it is what it is. The suppressor itself was about $1,000 plus your tax stamp and everything else. So you're looking at spending close to $1,500 just to get the suppressor and the muzzle brake.
I'm just going to shoot it. Let's see. Turn down this to get as precise of an aiming point as possible. I'm just going to shoot some steel. I believe this is steel case crap. Yep, it's steel case. So I'm going to shoot this at about 50 yards, see where it's grouping, and then put on the suppressor and kind of see where it is. I'm going to actually fire green tip, just regular, I believe it's Wolf Gold, could be wrong, and then the steel case stuff. 3 different groupings of 3 different ammo types, then do the same thing with the suppressor on just to kind of see what happens. Alright, I lied. I'm just going to shoot. I actually have 2 dots down there that I can use. So this is Wolf Gold 223 stuff. Slowly running out of it, but it was the most accurate in one of my guns, but it's not as accurate in this gun. So, every gun's a little bit different. So shoot this at the lower target. And we'll then put on the suppressor. This is not to measure group size. Alright, now with the SOCOM Mini on there, this is the 5.56 ready can, just so you know. It looks a little goofy on the end there. But I built this rifle to be lightweight, so with all this crap on here, it's still pretty handy and actually lighter than a lot of other guns I've held. So I'm happy with that. I just want to make sure, having that pencil barrel on there doesn't cause problems. I've shot it at 300 yards last time I came down here, and I felt like I had to hold just a little bit high at 300, like, maybe on the target, about like this. Not a lot, but something. So could have been my imagination, could have been the weather changing, cause the zero to shift a little bit because everything's cold versus hot. I don't know, but this will give me kind of a better idea. All right, so this is the, it would help. This is the Wolf 223, the Wolf Gold. So I'm going to be shooting at the lower target again. Fire the first round off in the dirt. Because, first round through a suppressor, blah, 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 whatever. All right. So this is just 223, and it is spitting that stuff probably 12, between the 1 and 2 o'clock position, probably more towards the 1. So this bolt carrier group is significantly more efficient, and that suppressor obviously adds a lot of back pressure. All right, so this is the steel case Wolf 223. See how it does. 1 off in the berm. First round pop. right, so as I expected, a little bit low. So here's my first group with the Wolf steel case. We got 1, 2, 3. The next one's 1, 2, 3. So if this is my average, you know, 0, then here's probably my new average. That could have just been a flyer. But 4 of them are in line here, so I'm going to go with those. But it looks like it held basically an inch lower at 50 yards. Again, this is only 50 yards. The Wolf Gold doesn't look like it was as affected. Sorry, wrong group. Wolf Gold still wasn't as affected as much. That was a flyer from earlier. So I had 1, 2, 3. Here was my group from earlier. So again, I would say roughly an inch at 50 yards. So it's going to be not quite 2 inches at 100. It'll be like an inch and a half, something like that, based on what I'm seeing. So that's not significant, but it is kind of what matched up with whatever I was shooting the other day at 300 yards, where I had to hold a little bit high at 300. So is that a big deal? No. Just know that, you know, you're gonna have to change your elevation just a little bit, taking the suppressor on and off. I'll fire unsuppressed, and then with the suppressor on the end, see what kind of shift we get. So here is unsuppressed, and finger length to the very bottom of the longest one. This was the first round. This was the first round. So let's say to the middle, it's about a finger and a half, you know, so right about here. On this one, honestly, it's maybe not quite 2. The bottom one, it's like half of a finger, so maybe half an inch lower. Not a whole lot. And again, if you ignore this one and just went by these, let's see. So center of that one, 2. And if you just went by these, it'd be about 1.5. So yeah, I'd say probably with that barrel, you're still getting, again, this is only about 50 yards. You're still gonna get about an inch of drop with the suppressor attached, because I mean, it's adding a decent amount of weight at the end. So I don't remember what the Faxon barrel was, but if this one's at 100 yards, would be about an inch. I think the Faxon was only around an inch as well. It could have been 2 inches, but I think it was an inch. Whenever I do the editing, I'll see. But you're still going to get a shift no matter what. So that's kind of impressive, I guess, for the Faxon barrel, considering how thin it is. All right, now I'm just shooting some Wolf 223 steel case crap. I'm going to shoot it unsuppressed and shoot it suppressed, see if there's a difference. I don't think there is, but I think if I remember right, I used 55 grain stuff on the other gun, so I want to try to be consistent, but I don't have, I don't remember what type of ammo I was using, nor do I probably have it, because I think I was using the PMC X-Tac, and I don't have any of that here at the moment. So let's go right, let's go top. So I find this strange. So this is with the Wolf 223 stuff. So here's my groups. All those were fairly good trigger pulls. One of those was a cold bore shot. Don't remember which. Or a new ammo type, whatever you want to call it. And here is the second group with the suppressor. That's significantly better. Again, this ammo is really inconsistent, so that could just be, you know, a fluke. Maybe these two, one of these was my first round, maybe I pulled one. But let's just say that your average line is about right here. That's about 2 fingers down, or 2, well, segments a finger down, versus this one is only 1 segment, sorry, only 1 segment down. So yeah, about 1 segment. Not sure what that means. I don't know if the suppressor, you know, added some rigidity to the barrel or something. I don't know, mess with the barrel harmonics, I don't know. But the drop was actually less with the suppressor. Maybe it's because I was angling up, you know, slightly on this one versus that. I don't know. You tell me. But I think that's kind of interesting. So I would say based on this that at worst you're gonna have, you know, maybe a 1-inch shift at 100 yards. That's kind of what it looks like here. It looks like it was a little bit lower. So it's not necessarily that the barrel's drooping. It probably is on some barrels, but I think that's kind of interesting. So you're gonna get some sort of shift with the suppressor. But with this Surefire, this is the 5.56, the Mini, I believe. I don't remember the actual name, but it looks like you're not really going to get any noticeable impact shift. It looks pretty consistent. So at 100 yards, you're looking at about 1.5 to 2 inches, and this was just straight down drop. Now with the Faxon barrel, I didn't get any vertical shift either direction with the suppressor. I only got, you know, horizontal, or, you know, it just went down about, basically at 100 yards, again, it would have been about 1.5 to 2 inches. So that to me is not a big deal. I did notice whenever I shot this gun out at 300 yards and a little bit further, I had to hold over more than I originally did, you know, with the other ones. And it wasn't a lot, but it was enough where I realized, I need to compensate for this just a little bit, which again is one of the reasons why I want to get that bullet drop compensator so I don't have to Kentucky windage it. But I was happy with that. I thought it would be more. Now again, every suppressor is going to be different. This thing is chunky, which again is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this. I really like Surefire products. They make just something that's bomb-proof, and I know this thing is heavy. So if you have a lighter weight suppressor, it'll probably not have as much shift. But this thing, especially for how small it is, I mean, it's a brick. So that in conjunction with a thin barrel, it's going to, you know, flex. You can see it on there. Flexes a little bit. It's going to flex some, which is going to change your impact shift. Now, if you're not taking this on and off all the time, you just leave it on your rifle, it honestly doesn't matter. It's not that big of a deal. Just know if you ever have to take it off for whatever reason, your shift is going to be, you know, up, I guess, at that point, about 1.5, maybe 2 inches at 200 yards. Now, with this thicker barrel, this one is, again, this gun came from Cape Tactical, but I believe the barrel is a F1 firearms barrel, but it's tin coated, the TIN coating, which is basically gold. And it had less shift because the barrel is thicker. Now, it's not quite, you know, twice as thick, but I would say it's about 1/3 thicker, maybe 50% thicker than the Faxon. And that did have an impact. Again, could it have just been the barrels themselves that behaving differently? It could have been, but I highly suspect it was because this one has a pencil barrel. So this one, whenever I shot at 50 yards, it only moved about 1/2 inch yeah, it was probably about 1/2 inch at the most. It was barely noticeable. So at 100 yards, you're getting roughly 1 inch, you know, maybe at the worst to 1.5 inches. So you're going from 1 inch to 1.5 inches maybe with this one, you know, impact shift, versus this one's probably 1.5 inches to 2 inches. And again, every barrel is going to be different, but there was, again, probably 1/2 to 1 inch more difference of this. Now this one, again, didn't have any horizontal difference. Again, with this one did. If I remember correctly, it was down and to the left. So, again, could have just been this specific barrel, but, you know, that's something to be said about the Faxon, you know, I guess. But the important part of this video is just to remember that you need to test your stuff. If you buy a suppressor, put it on there, see where it's hitting, and then, you know, obviously you've zeroed it before you put the suppressor on. And then at that point, you can see, you know, where the difference is on impact, and you have to decide which you want to zero it for. Do you want to zero it without the suppressor? Do you want to zero it with the suppressor? Or does it really matter? Are you shooting at close enough distances where, I mean, it doesn't matter? So I hope you appreciated this video. It honestly was a fairly easy video to make, but I was really just curious, you know, how much the pencil barrel would matter compared to a, I would say this is a thicker, you know, profile barrel. How much shift you would get. Now, if you use like a standard M4 barrel, it's going to be a little bit thicker or thinner than this. You might get more impact shift. It might be somewhere in between the two. So
for me, I was really expecting to have a lot more shift with this, and I didn't. So I'm thrilled, which means I'm not going to replace this barrel because I was worried that I was going to have to whenever I put the suppressor on there, because I was just going to be, you know, a large amount of impact shift. But one thing I will say is it looks a little weird. So that was one of the reasons why I wish this handguard went out a little bit further, so my flashlight could be pushed forward, and my OCD doesn't like the fact this is sticking out. So, you know, for what it is, it does what I want it to do with lightweight, but, you know, it just kind of looks weird. So if you have OCD, that might bother you. But anyways, I hope you appreciate this video. If you have any more suggestions on things you'd like to see me do, again, I plan on making some Eotech videos in the future. So be looking for those. I'm also doing a durability test on this specific optic right here, and along with a bunch of other cheap Chinese ones. Now this one's not cheap, but it is made by a Chinese company or an Amazon company. So I'm going to be doing that as well. I don't know which I'm releasing first. So anyways, I'm got a lot to do, kind of busy. But anyways, I hope you all have a good one.